Have you found that historically you've been a notably creative person? Just like growing up, you just had a taste for the arts.
100%. I'm so into the arts. I'm actually a published poet. So I love to write, and then I love music. I'm a singer as well. I appreciate arts as a whole. I've done music my whole life, piano and flute. So yeah, I've started out in that very creative zone, and that's why I really enjoy doing this.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, so inversely, what's the worst part of the job then?
Oh, worst part. I would say there's a lot of technical stuff that, again, you can't possibly have a grasp on everything technical that has to do with a website. And sometimes I have to research it. Just like you said, you were mentioning spending 2 to 3 hours to research. That's minimum for me. So the research can be extensive. It can take time and effort. And sometimes I can't get through customer service, which not everybody has good customer service. So, for example, GoDaddy is not the best.
It's really bad.
Just bad. And so I have to put in the time and the hours and the effort into figuring those situations out because that's my job. And so obviously it's not the best part. Yeah.
So different kind, but still staying in the same vein of that question. Have you ever had a contract fall apart midway through?
Oh, yes. I've had actually, and it was to the demise of my client because my client paid 30% deposit and they completely ghosted me after that. And so I couldn't turn in a website.
Right.
And I couldn't get in touch with them and couldn't get a hold of them. And so I feel like it was a loss on their end. But also what the loss becomes for me is because it's time consuming because I'm always constantly checking on that client because I know in the back of my head that I have this project going on. But truly my client has disappeared. So the investment that I have put in to this, and usually when I sign the 30% deposit, I'm already working on some stuff. I'm figuring out color palettes. I'm looking at formats and fonts. I'm looking at different things and researching the company. And so it kind of sets me back a little bit when that happens. So I have added a clause in my proposal to protect me from that particular scenario. So
I've run into that recently as well, where anyone that works on a consultation or a specialty service basis, I'm sure has this, where they'll have someone and they'll even sign contracts to put in the deposits and then they're just gone, no matter what you do.
Yes.
And now we've started putting in more clauses into our contracts to say, hey, like these deposits are not refundable because I need security for my time.
Exactly. And I would even go one step further and I would charge the full price of the project, even though it wasn't turned in. So if I get no contact within 3 months from my client with anything, content, images, even communication, then I'm charging them for the whole entire website.
Yeah, because they don't realize, because they think, oh, you've just not done any work. It's like, no, we have done work. And we've set aside a lot of time.
Exactly. To plan it out, to strategize it, to research it. So all that time has been spent, and also even, getting the proposal done. So that's taking away from time that I can allocate to a different project that I can be going further along in. Instead, I'm spending time revisiting that same unfinished project.
I had one lady, we were running ads for a time in a certain area, and she interacted with the ad because it was for a specialty service all about like memoirs and stuff.
Yes.
And older lady is like, okay, let's set up a time for a consultation. We set that up. And then I gave her the whole spiel. And then right away, it was really funny because she's like, I'm going to stop you halfway through your pitch. I think the service is disgusting.
Oh.
I'm not into it at all. It's like, oh, okay, it's the first time we've ever gotten that. Fair enough.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And she said, here's what I want you to do. And she has a specialty marijuana service. I'm like, oh. Okay, you know what? You want marketing services? We can help you with that? Sure, even though that's not what the ad said, that's fine. She's like, yeah. But here's the thing. I want you to do a bunch of research. I want you to find my competitors. I want you to build me all these plans. And then, if I like it, then we can talk about a contract. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
Exactly.
Not in this field.
Yes, I've had clients like that too, and it's part of the job. It's part of the business, the nature of the business, and you just pick and choose who you want your clients to be.
You don't have to take everyone.
You do not, and I have not. So, and I'm fine with that. If somebody's, again, people who are not very responsive, I'm very aware of, and I'm kind of weary of. I keep them at an arm's length because If you're not interested in doing business with me, then I'm just not going to give it that much attention. So,
like, let's not forget that I don't have to chase you. If we're gonna work together, we're gonna do it on an equal playing field.
Exactly. And I have done, and that's because I've gone through the scenarios of chasing people to get their business, and it's always backfired on me. So I've learned to have a very clear and concise proposal and have all the clauses in there to protect me and my business. And if somebody's not ready, they're not ready, and I just leave them be. Yeah. And whenever they're ready and they mean business, then you are more than welcome to work with me. So
yeah, and like that's fine. That's not a problem.
Yeah, no. Not at all.
Okay, so realistically, how hard is it to make a decent website?
Again, it's not hard. There's so many different other factors. You will need to look at the website as part of a bigger marketing strategy. And you will need to have this knowledge behind it of how things work on the technical side. And it's not hard to get a builder like Squarespace to build a website. But is it going to accomplish all the things that you want it to accomplish? Probably not, because you're doing things on the surface, but there's a lot of back end stuff that needs to happen. And there's a lot of science to it. It's a different approach than somebody who's just putting stuff together. So it's easy, as in the builders are easy. They're intuitive. Now that drag and drop blocks and all that sort of stuff, anybody can do that, but not everybody can look at it in a strategic way and understand the science behind the user experience and how things work with SEO and the robots crawling your site and all that sort of stuff.
If I was in a position, though, where I was looking at Squarespace and I'm being really frugal, could I run a successful business meaningfully on Squarespace?
I think you could. And I can't even tell you how many redesign projects in Squarespace I've had, because people, that's what they do. They want something cheap, quick, easy, drag and drop. And so they sign up for Squarespace, they get their website going, but then they run into a wall because it's not converting properly. And so, yes, you can, but you also need to have some of that knowledge, and you need to have some of those skills. And some things, sometimes you want to create a form, but you don't know how to create it, and it needs a custom code, which in Squarespace is very limited. And a lot of the times you're going to need custom code to create new things. And so that's when they're like, okay, I can't do this. This is not making sense for me. But if you do have a general knowledge of marketing, if you do have a general knowledge of design, it's doable. It's doable.
It's got that learning curve to it.
A learning curve and time consuming. So those are two very important things in a small business. These are luxuries they don't have.
So what are some insider tips and tricks that you can give to the person who's trying to do a DIY to help make their website just a little bit better?
Some quick tips would be, having streamlined content, having a very clear navigation menu, a very clear footer menu with contact information on it. I would want to have clear headers, taglines, and call to action buttons. Make sure all those things are very clear on the site. As far as content, don't put too much content on there and not too little. It has to be the right amount of content so that the users are not turned away from it. And if you can keep it more minimalistic than busy, that would be better. I would skip the animations, because that's a whole different thing that you don't want to deal with if you're just trying to get a site up. And I would use a lot of white space. A lot of people don't understand the concept of white space on the page. They think cramming as much information as possible is the right way to go. It's not. Visually, you need a lot of white space to be able to assimilate information. And so that would be something that you need to consider doing.
So white space, that's the blank area on a canvas. Is that the idea?
It's the white area that's going to be framing content or images on the website, on the web page. So it's the stuff that's empty. It's the empty space around the content. And so if there's not enough white space, visually it's not as appealing and it's not as easy to read.
Gotcha. Just it feels cramped, feels crowded.
Yeah, people don't like that.
Bad user experience.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, last question.
Yes.
Tools of the trade. What tools do you use when you make a website?
I have a variety of tools that I use, from like design to just everything. So design, I use Canva quite a bit. I use BeFunky for resizing and compressing. Tiny PNG, I mentioned that in a previous episode for compressing images. I also use, it's called Coolors, so Coolors, and I use it for color palettes. So it finds all your complementary colors, and if you want to find more than one color, like an accent color, so it kind of helps with that. I also use, for wireframes, I use Mockups or Figma. Those are two very good tools. I also use, so the builders, whatever is available on the platform. If it's a WordPress platform, I use Elementor, Divi. Those are some of the main builders. And beyond that, I use Google Analytics, Google Search Console. I use Google Optimize. I also use PageSpeed Insights, usually when I'm done building, to make sure that the site is fast to load. And if there's anything that I need to be changing, that I do that work. And then of course, the hosting companies, they have their own tools as well. And FTP Site is a tool to know how to use, because it gives you access to the files on the back end if you need to do some other custom work. And pretty much, these are the main things.
And are any of those free, or are those all pretty hefty prices?
Some of them are, some of them are not. So I have subscription to some of them because I need the pro version to be able to work on multiple sites. Right. So that's when it makes sense to me, because I use that one tool for multiple things.
Yeah, because I started getting into WordPress, and then I realized that if I wanted to format things nicely for mobile, it was a lot easier to do that with like Elementor.
Yes.
Yeah. And bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
But tons of resources on it.
Yes.
So
you almost always need a builder for WordPress. I've built it with code, and I would not recommend that for the average user. There's a lot of great builders out there you can utilize. Even the free version of Elementor is great.
Yeah.
You don't need the pro version. I built sites just with the free version. So there's a lot there that you can use. And of course, the more you're in this business, the more you recognize the different tools that you can use, especially within WordPress, some of the plugins that work, some of them that are not very efficient. So you can kind of pinpoint what you need on the site or not.
Well, I feel like I've learned something, Nadia.
Great.